Speaking. Oh, hi. Not too bad. How about you? Yeah. Yeah, glad we finally connected. Yeah. Did you get to the two events today? Oh, okay. Right. Interesting, yeah. Yes. Definitely a little. I think my biggest concerns have to deal with the context and the timing. I mean, we've got government entities here that have had deplorable records for treating trans people. Um, my biggest concern is the health care. We've seen trans people have to go publicly and beg for money to get health care because the government programs won't help. And it just seems insincere for me, for them to all of a sudden think that they can stand up and hold a rainbow flag for a photo op and then everything will just be fine. Um, my second concern is the context of using sports. I mean, Nelson Mandela had a quote about how sports is an opportunity to bring us all together. And it just seems that over the years, if you look at the history of the Olympics, so many organizations have tried to exploit this event as an opportunity to get their message forward, which I suppose is up to them if that's what they want to do. But I feel really badly for the athletes because I think this story is overshadowing where the focus really should be on the athletes. I myself am an athlete. I'm also happen to be an LGBT athlete, but ultimately I think I'm more proud of the fact that of my athletic achievements. I mean, you can't help the way you're born, but if you go out and work hard and become an athlete, that's even perhaps more to be proud of. And I think Darren King, I saw a clip of the news coverage there. He had to remind everyone that, by the way, there's Caitlin Osmond, the Newfoundlander, who's over here. She's worked her butt off as a figure skater, and I mean, has anyone gone and asked Caitlin what she thinks of this? And how does she care that she's perhaps not getting the credit and the attention that she deserves for this? And does she like being used as a political pawn? I mean, we go through this a lot during Pride Week, and it's like, well, for 1 week out of the year, all the politicians want to be nice to us. To me, that's not good enough. It needs to be every day. And I need to see more than just a tokenism symbol on the backs of Olympic athletes, while deep down, during the everyday life, they're not treating LGBT people, specifically trans people, as good as they could. Right? Yeah. Well, that's a fair enough comment. I think we need to remember that the International Olympic Committee is not a government entity, it's a sports entity, and their goal is to bring the world together, and they need to be fair and equitable in terms of making sure that a variety of different countries have an opportunity to host the Olympics. 2007, the decision was made to book the events in Sochi this year. These laws did not exist at the time, and I think to suggest that they should cancel the Olympics or try to pull the plug on going to Russia because of this it's a little bit too little too late. Furthermore, in terms of safety, my understanding is the law in question, it doesn't mean it's illegal to be gay. It's illegal to spread certain type of propaganda, I believe they refer to it. So if you're an athlete who's going to the Olympics to compete in their sport, win their gold medal, smile for the camera, and then go home, my understanding is they're not breaking any laws and there won't be any problems there. And I think, yeah, and in terms of the shining the light on Vancouver and exploiting, I guess, the negative things that the city tried to hide, I mean, absolutely, no city's going to be perfect. You could put the Olympics anywhere, and I bet you somebody's going to find something wrong with that city. They're going to look at the government of that country and find some policy or some law they don't like. Heck, nobody's more vocally aggressive in terms of criticizing the Canadian and the Newfoundland government over trans matters as Jennifer McCreath. At the same time, if I'm going to go run the Tele 10, for example, I'm not going to use that necessarily as a platform to bitch about trans health care. If I'm at the Tele 10, I'm there to run, I'm there to celebrate, and be part of the athletic community. I guess ultimately my issue is there's a time and a place to do activism effectively and get your message across in a positive manner. I have been reading the comments of major media outlets here in this city that have reported on this story, and I'm seeing a significantly high amount of people criticizing the gay community. Comments like, how come we always have to raise a gay flag for this and that? And ultimately, I think we all as LGBT people need to be receptive of the audience we're trying to communicate with. And sometimes you can go too far, and perception is reality. A lot of people are seeing that this is being done in bad taste and don't necessarily feel this is the right avenue or context to be pushing this message. Okay. Um, yeah, millions. Um, first, first of all, I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it could happen. Secondly, I think it's best to go and ask the athletes. I mean, it's ultimately, it's their moment, and it should be. I don't hear athletes. That's the one entity that's not speaking out today on these flag raisings. Is not one report of a Canadian athlete commenting on this. Yeah, yeah, and that's understandable. I mean, sure, if Russia were to change that rule or that policy, then that would be good news. At the same time, I think we have to balance out the opportunity cost, and is it worth pissing off a lot of people and giving yourself a bad reputation in order to change that other policy? And I guess everyone's going to have their own different answer and opinion on that. But yeah, I guess ultimately, my main concern, I guess, is questioning the motive and integrity of some of these folks, specifically the cabinet ministers who, based on my experience living here for 7 years, have not been the, whether it's Tom Marshall, Kathy Dunderdale, or Danny Williams' government, the 7 years that I've lived here, the policies that government has had for trans people has been deplorable. And they need to do if they're genuinely interested in supporting human rights, then they need to start right here at home. I guess that's another comment. It's great that they care about Russia, but why aren't they caring about the people right here at home? And you need to kind of clean up your own backyard first before you can go and crap on other people's. I guess. Yeah, the issue. I mean, we've seen the change in legislation for human rights, which is a great first step. But the next thing that needs to happen is the healthcare policies. The fact that MCP is not covering medically necessary trans procedures that are recommended by doctors. And there's also challenges with regards to certain trans people getting identification documents amended. We're talking about pretty basic stuff that affects trans people in their everyday life. We are, my understanding is we're the only province that requires trans patients to travel to, out of province, to a clinic in Toronto for assessment at an entity known as CAMH. We may have talked about this before. And that's only to get certain things covered, and ultimately there's a lot of things they won't cover no matter what. As far as how do we compare or rank with other provinces, some provinces don't cover it all, where others they don't require that much red tape. So you'd probably say we're somewhere in the middle. Definitely not leaders, and as a country, we're definitely not leaders either. There's a lot of other countries that do a much better job with things like that. And I guess a final further comment that I'll throw at this, which seems to be an overarching theme for a lot of my advocacy work as a trans person, is the fact that the T's are often thrown under the bus or left seen as kind of quiet or small in the acronym of LGBT. And you hear that acronym thrown out a lot, LGBT. We care about LGBT people, but a lot of these folks don't even know what T really is or what it means or what the issues are. And there's still a lot of misconceptions that transgender and gay are the same thing when they're totally different things. And I guess one other thought I'll throw at you, it would have been nice to see LGBT athletes. I would have been more inclined to be supportive of these events if LGBT athletes were given a platform to address the situation. But my understanding, it was politicians and non-athletic gay rights activists, and it had nothing to do with the athletics community. And this group was looking to piggyback onto the athletic community. And I guess that's my issue. I wear two. Yeah, the closest thing that I would be familiar with, there's an international organization called International Frontrunners. It's basically an LGBT-friendly running/jogging club, and there is a very small chapter here on paper. I'm actually one of the co-chairs. Tony Brathwaite, who I don't know if you know who he is. He's been involved with PFI Canada. He's also part of that. The Outgames, there's another interesting comment. Where was all this love and support when Newfoundland was sending 3 athletes over to the Outgames? I don't remember anyone recognizing these great accomplishments. They were in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I actually met Tony Brathwaite there. I didn't know who he was, and he came. He must have known who I was. He came up and said, "Hi, are you Jennifer from Newfoundland?" "Yes, well, I'm Tony Brathwaite. I'm moving to Newfoundland from Ontario." And we kind of hit it off and had a good chat, and we have kept in touch ever since. And we've run together, and we launched the Front Runner chapter here. But yeah, it's just not celebrated really. I mean, where's the talk about LGBT athletes? I mean, there's been a few people mentioning that on Twitter, but I guess that's one more thing I'll follow up with. You don't hear about LGBT athletes at least here in Canada, and I guess I would have to question how open and accepting is Athletics Canada of LGBT people and athletes. I remember a previous Olympics, I can't remember when it was, probably 2004, 2006, there was a South African runner who I guess had some sort of intersex condition, and this kind of led to conversations about trans athletes and the Olympics. And I remember reaching out to Athletics Canada saying, there are trans people who are athletes, we need to work together to come up with a protocol. Because the day's going to come when a trans person is going to be good enough to make an Olympic team, and there's going to be questions around well, how do you classify this person, when and how is it acceptable for them to compete in their new sex versus the old sex? And they were not receptive to my emails at all. They didn't respond at all, which is basically my understanding that they could care less. Yeah, there's lots. I think another interesting concept, I'm getting a lot of harsh kickback and pushback from the gay community here in Newfoundland. But what I'm not getting back, I'm just as well known and involved with the athletic community here as I am the LGBT community. And I don't see any athletes tweeting back at me with anything to say. It's like this is a non-issue for them, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, that would be, you're not going to get a hold of Caitlin Osmond, but I'd be curious to know what some of our local, like our Telly 10 winners over the past couple of years, what do they think of this? And yeah, it's definitely, it's interesting to see this happen, but I guess that the timing is, and the context has been questioning it. Alrighty. No problem. Thanks for writing about it. Take care. Bye. Gee, he did more talking than I did. That was Justin Brake. I think he's the editor of the independent newspaper here in St. John's, Newfoundland, doing a story about the fact that rainbow flags have been raised at City Hall and our provincial government legislature. The first time ever the provincial government has raised a rainbow flag. It's on the occasion of the start of the Winter Olympics, and I've been quite vocal in my concerns, as you just heard, with regards to the fact that I don't think this is being done in good taste, and I don't think it is the right time or the right place or the right mechanism or the right methodology to be raising these type of issues. And yeah, anyways, there you go, Jennifer McCreath. It's February 7th tonight, I believe, 2014, and thanks for watching.